Good evening and welcome to the special broadcast. I don't like actually speaking when there's such beautiful music, so I'm just going to hold my words and listen to the wonderful strains of Vaishnava Jantar that we just heard Ustad Bismillah Khan's wonderful family playing for us. Very soothing sounds after the political noise that we've been subject to for the last many weeks. I can't say it's over, but it's almost over. From Varanasi tonight, first, a privilege to have with us, and I want a big round of applause from the Banarsis here to welcome, and in fact everybody here, Ustad Bismillah Khan's family, wonderful musicians who have today reminded us that music is beyond politics. They were at the center of a political debate, but more on that in just a moment. At the moment, we're just enjoying how beautiful their music is. From Varanasi tonight, on the road to 2014, it's curtains down on campaigning. On the program today, we'll be asking what this battle came to represent. Did Kashi really become Kurukshetra? Is it really Modi versus Kejriwal versus Rahul Gandhi? Today was the day when Rahul Gandhi finally decided to arrive in Varanasi. Was that a decision forced by Narendra Modi in Amethi? And above all, has this election of 2014 been a watershed election, one that has changed the rules of politics? In Varanasi, the world's oldest living city, is there a race, especially in the last lap, to claim some of India's greatest icons, from Madan Mohan Malviya to Ustad Bismillah Khan to, of course, the river Ganga? Those will be some of the things we'll be looking at on this Banaras Baitak tonight. We have here, of course, many different voices, the residents of Banaras. And let's introduce our panel this evening. We're joined by a political commentator and political scientist, Professor Ashutosh Varsne. From the Aam Aadmi Party, he used to be one of our best political analysts, and he still is, but now he's a Neta. He's Yogendra Yadav of the Aam Aadmi Party. Amir Raza Hussain, we know him as a theatre person, but why is he in Varanasi? He is actually here to support Arvind Kejriwal, but supporting other candidates in different parts of the country. So it's candidate specific for Amir Raza Hussain. And finally, we have Sadanand Dhume. He's, of course, an author and a commentator, and also associated with a major think tank in the United States of America. From Delhi tonight, our national politicians joining us. From the Congress, Abhishek Singhvi. From the BJP, Chandan Mitra. And as we said, we also have Ustad Bismillah Khan's family, and we'll be talking to them as well. Yogendra ji, aapse shuru karti hu. Before I get Abhishek and Chandan in, who are not with us here in Banaras, I wish they could be. It's almost over. It's almost over.
Thank God.
I want to say the same. I've lost my voice, so I don't know how all of you do it. What did this election come to represent? What is the battle for Varanasi, where we are today? In this beautiful Kabir Math, which is more than 600 years old. What did it come to represent?
For me, this was the battle for the very idea of India. I've said it again and again. And we are fortunate that this battle took place in Varanasi, which in many ways is a cradle of our civilization. It's a battle for the idea of India in 2 or 3 senses. But the deepest sense is that of the diversity that our culture represents, that our civilization represents. And I think this election, in a larger way, was about 2 different visions of India. One vision of India, which wants to flatten all the diversity of this country, which sees unity only in uniformity. And there's the other, deeper vision. I can look at Rabindranath Tagore here. I can look at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi right here within a few feet. That vision was a vision which celebrated the diversity of this country.
Now, I take your reference to be to the BJP. So, is it fair to say that this battle for you was the Aam Aadmi Party versus the BJP, and the Congress became marginal?
In Banaras, of course it did.
In Banaras, and Rahul Gandhi's coming made no difference.
Well, it's not for me to say, but I don't think it made much of a difference. That's my sense.
Okay.
But you are a much better judge. When his show was on, I was doing another show, so it would be wrong for me to say I saw his show and I've come to this conclusion.
Yes.
You would be a much better judge of these things.
Let me take that to Abhishek Singhvi and Chandan Mitra, and then we'll hear from the voices here. Abhishek Singhvi, is Rahul Gandhi essentially returning the Amethi fire? If Mr. Modi had not gone to Amethi, would he have even been here this morning? You know, a number of Congress workers I met alongside his own roadshow said he kept it for too late. Has that been the problem of this entire election, that the Congress lost its way, that Mr. Modi set the terms, that Mr. Modi would set the agenda and then the Congress would react?
That depends on which party you belong to and how you view it. There is a very equally strong, if not stronger, viewpoint that Mr. Modi, with his repetitive style, was actually peaking too early or trying to peak too early, and the reverse was being alleged against him, that he's going to find it difficult to sustain the campaign. Number two, in fact, there were a lot of feeling that he has not in fact been able to sustain the hype, the dynamism, the speed and the momentum of the campaign. So it's very important to peak at the right time. I don't think when you come to the last day of campaigning and you give it so much importance and you are actually peaking at the right time, to call it too late. After all, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav cannot be said to be coming to his own state too late. Obviously, the contrary viewpoint is that Mr. Rahul Gandhi was giving it supreme importance. He was keeping it for the back. And don't forget that this is the few seats in the last phase of election. So there's no question of peaking too early as far as Varanasi is concerned. Also, I think, I'm surprised that I'm agreeing with almost every word.
Yeah, you agreed with Yogendra Yadav, but he didn't consider you competition.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a cardinal sin to be overconfident in an electoral battle. You have two people who have a national image and name, Mr. Modi and Mr. Kejriwal, no doubt. But that is precisely why they should never underestimate the local person. This election is certainly about the idea of India. It is also about a contrast between those who parachute temporarily to forget Varanasi forever thereafter. Mr. Modi is the parachuter. Mr. Kejriwal is the follower. On his own statement, he will follow Modi wherever he goes. Neither has his heart or feet into Varanasi, its ethos, its local good. As opposed to that, you have a 6 or 7 time MLA who's a local boy, who knows everything local. And he's been going to be there for the roads, for the sewerage, for the local issues. So those who underestimate this do so at their own peril.
My point was not just about numbers, that will be decided on the 16th. Yeah. My point was, in which way does Mr. Rai represent an opposition to Mr. Modi's idea of India? After all, he's from the BJP, which is the opposition.
He's formally with the BJP.
He was 3 times MLA of the BJP. In which way does he represent a new syncretic, deep idea of India? That's my point.
Let's park that
also,
thought.
He's not actually from Banaras.
Who? Ajay Rai.
Yeah,
okay, I'm in 1 minute. I just want to
MLA.
get the politicians in and then I want to come to the
but
others.
He's been an MLA from outside the city.
Let's let Chandan have a say and then we'll open it up. Chandan, there's something very peculiar going on. Rajnath Singh is suddenly saying the election commission must ensure that the elections are free and fair. When in India did we begin to doubt that elections are free and fair? Why is the BJP in the last lap? You may have your differences with the district magistrate here. You may make a solid argument there depending on who you talk to. There could be 2 views on that. But to question the fairness of the democratic process in India, there might be aberrations, there might be conflict zones. I'm not talking about those. But on average, we are proud of our free and fair elections. Why is the BJP questioning this? The Congress is saying this is sign of nervousness.
No. You see, the point which Mr. Rajnath Singh is making, and I think I entirely agreed, I think everybody who has been in this fray, including myself, I have felt that the level playing field that the Election Commission is expected or is duty bound to create for all the contesting candidates, the Congress, BJP, CPI, CPM, Independent, Regional Party, whatever. That level playing field was not created, and certainly it was tilted against the BJP. The goalposts were shifted after the match had begun, and there seems to be a certain, I would say, some kind of subjective judgment coming from the Election Commission this time, which is distressing. As you know, the Election Commission is a divided house. One of the commissioners has admitted...
Are you saying, Chandan, beyond the district magistrate... Chandan, I'm trying to ask you a question. Are you saying that beyond the district magistrate, these elections nationally, you're now worried were not free and fair? Is that the BJP position?
No. I don't think that we have made a wild and widespread allegation that the entire election was not free and fair. But some acts of the Election Commission, in Varanasi in particular, I have been at the receiving end of the Election Commission's complete indifference and their kind of bowing to the state authorities in my constituency. So I know that it has not been even-handed. That some people have benefited out of the Election Commission's indifference. They have overlooked many things. They have proactively done things such as in Varanasi, which were not fair to the BJP. So yes, we are unhappy about the whole thing. I'm not saying the Election Commission has been, biased across the board.
I want to come in here, and I'm going to actually speak over you because we have to move on. In many ways, so many things have changed in this election. A major party has gone on a dharna against the Election Commission. In many other ways, people have seen the rise of Mr. Modi and the rise of Mr. Kejriwal, while they may have nothing ideologically in common, as a backlash to an elite stranglehold over India. There's something very interesting going on. For the first time, it's fashionable to talk about development and only development. It's actually not cool to for a politician to overtly talk about caste and religion. So many different things have changed. Sadanand, looking at these elections, do you believe that this is an election like none other that we've seen in decades?
Absolutely. I think this is the most significant election since 1977.
And why do you say that?
I think in 1977 really was a question of whether India was going to be a democracy or not, whether Indian democracy was going to survive. But this is a turning point in another way. By now we can take for granted the fact that India is a democracy. But the idiom of this election has really been, as you said, an idiom of development. And I'd like to take issue briefly with Yogendra on this idea of, the idea of India, which is a sort of horse that we flog repeatedly. From my view as a distant observer, I don't see the idea of India as a pluralistic nation really being threatened. I was struck the other day by a photograph of Mr. Modi touching the feet of this 114-year-old colonel from the Indian National Army. And I think that for me that reaffirmed the idea of India as a pluralistic nation, though the emphasis may be different, and one party may say that I will turn to people who are seen as who put the Indianness of their identity first on that hyphenation.
And you believe Mr. Modi has done that?
I think that the touching the feet of that 114-year-old colonel was precisely that.
Amir Raza Hussain, Modi's formulation is India first, religion second. As per Sadanand, that is how it should be. So when Yogendra or even Abhishek Singhvi, and this they have in common, talk about the idea of India being under siege, and that's why for them this election is actually as significant as it is. What do you say?
No, I don't think anybody has a doubt about India first. The point is that it's so clear, and I'm amazed that people are not able to see it. It's so clear that this whole development agenda is a makhota. And behind this mask is this huge caste politics being played, communal politics being played.
But isn't it being played by everybody?
No, maybe it's being played, but nothing as well, if that's the word to use, as Mr. Modi has done. The divisive politics which Mr. Modi has brought to this country in this election is amazing. The arrogance, the macho attitude of people all over the country, voters all over the country, and especially the BJP all over the country. This whole aggression which we are seeing today, it's incredible. There's aggression in speeches, there's aggression. And where is the development? We are not talking about development.
Quick response, and I want to get Professor Varshney in. I mean, you made your point, yeah.
No, I think that, fundamentally we look at politics differently. I think politics really is about what you say. There's no such thing as makhota.
It's not about what you
do.
If
a politician goes and campaigns based on development, it is a campaign about development.
No, but he hasn't campaigned on development.
Of course he has. Look at all his speeches.
No. If we look at Modi's speeches in the last 6 months, I mean, right now he's talked about the kind of refugees we should accept from coming across the border.
Okay, let me get Professor Varshney in, and then I'll come back to the politicians in just a minute. So, you wrote a piece called Modi the Moderate. And what happens today is that people have to be labeled. So polarized has our environment become. I actually find that very different from the previous elections I've covered, that even today, today you have to stand up and take a side. It's almost become like that. And if you try and apply different nuances to different sides, you're immediately labeled a traitor by the other side. Now, my question is, what did you mean by Modi the moderate?
Well, that particular claim was a limited one, limited to the campaign themes. I highlighted the fact that on 3 grounds he's departing from Hindu nationalism, or the core of Hindu nationalism. The first was, and 2 of which are very important here in this discussion, the argument about the Hajj in Bihar and UP, and then the blog on Maulana Azad on his birthday. Then, consistent with that, touching of Colonel Nizamuddin's feet. I was present at that rally actually 2 days ago. In his overt campaign, in his explicit messages, the point about Bangladeshi migrants or that persecuted Hindus anywhere are welcome to India, that to me is a subsidiary theme really. It's a subterranean is not the right word, but subsidiary theme.
Okay.
The primary theme of the campaign has been development and governance. Now, you may say that a strictly Hindu nationalist campaign would have been an electoral disaster. It has been shown to be one in the 1990s. So the very pragmatic necessities of acquiring power in India require that you play the moderate card. Right.
So you're saying that the very nature of Indian politics is in a sense forced moderation on all parties. Yogendraji, come in quickly here. You're hearing at least 2 of our commentators here saying this election campaign was about development, it was about Vikas. That makes it different, that sets it apart. And Mr. Modi has also been pressured, as it were, to reinvent himself over the years.
I would qualify that by saying that while development emerged as a theme, it did not on the ground displace the narratives of religion and caste.
Okay.
I wish what Sadanand was saying was true. I would love it. This would be my dream. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I take the point about taking people's words seriously, yes. But which are the 5 serious things about development that have been talked about? Where are the new ideas on education, on health, on infrastructure or whatever? There is a lot of frothy talk about development, but what is there, even in discussion and talk, where is the substance? And 2, Mr. Modi does not have to, this is a complete misconception that Mr. Modi will issue some statement against minorities for him to take that kind of a stand. Mr. Modi just has to be himself, to be a threat to everyone. He just has to keep silent. All he has to do is not to accept cap of one kind, while he would wear every turban and every cap in the world.
I want Sadanand to come in on this, because I have argued with him repeatedly on this issue. Was it important? Was it not?
So I actually completely disagree. I think if you look around the world, there are many leaders who are considered to be perfectly secular. France has a very large Muslim population. I don't see Francois Hollande told that he must wear a skull cap. If he chooses to wear one, that's fine. Britain has a very large Muslim population. I don't see David Cameron forced to wear a skull cap. For me, it's a question of personal choice. You can't make it a litmus test.
If David Cameron were to accept every other religion, if he were to accept Sikh turban, if he were to accept everything else, but refuse the skull cap, would it matter to you or not?
To me, it would not matter. I live in the United States. If Barack Obama embraces the symbols of Christianity because he's a Christian, he goes to church every Sunday, which he does, that is fine, because that is his religion and that is his culture. As long as he treats people of all other faiths equally, that's all I care about.
If Barack Obama were to wear a Sikh turban, if he were to wear a Hindu pagdi, but refuse to touch a skull cap, would it matter to you or not? That was my question.
But in this case, I don't see Modi deviating from embracing the symbols of what he would regard as the Hindu religion.
Oh, he's embraced symbols all across the country.
Okay, 1 minute. We have to move on, and I know Chandan and Abhishek want to come in here. But one of the other things that has happened in this election is a fierce debate on who owns what icon. Look at what happened today. Madan Mohan Malviya, rarely remembered by any politician otherwise. But when Mr. Modi filed his nomination papers, he began with tributes to Madan Mohan Malviya. Arvind Kejriwal began his roadshow from the same Lanka Chowk where Madan Mohan Malviya's statue stands. Rahul Gandhi culminates his roadshow there today. Madan Mohan Malviya has of course been the president of the Indian National Congress for 4 terms, but he was also associated with the Hindu Mahasabha. When Mr. Modi went and garlanded Madan Mohan Malviya, Ajay Markan made a statement saying that Mr. Modi's entire nomination roadshow had been to commemorate Hindu icons. Did he mean Madan Mohan Malviya? Then there is of course Bismillah Khan Saab's family, I'm sitting with them. There is Pandit Chanulal Mishra, who ended up being one of the proposers. There is the debate around the Ganga. Are politicians trying to appropriate our icons? How have our icons become, at the center of this political debate? Ustad साहब आपसे पूछूंगी, आज जब राहुल गांधी आए, आपने उनके लिए शहनाई बजाई और लोगों को लगा कि इसका मतलब है कि आपके परिवार ने इस युद्ध में एक पार्टी की तरफदारी की, आपने उनको पॉलिटिकली सपोर्ट किया, आप इसके बारे में क्या कहेंगे?
जी नहीं, हमने सभी पार्टी का इस्तकबाल किया, स्वागत किया। हमने आज राहुल गांधी का भी हमने इस्तकबाल किया, स्वागत किया। मैं किसी पार्टी से जुड़ा हुआ नहीं हूँ, मैं तो हर पार्टी की इज्जत करता हूँ। और सब
तो आप कह रहे हैं कि अगर मोदी जी या केजरीवाल जी ने आपको बोला होता कि हमारे लिए बजाएं तो उनके लिए भी बजाते हैं?
हम उन लोग के लिए भी बजाते हैं। अभी हमने कल बीजेपी का प्रोग्राम हमने किया नमाजा होटल में, बड़े मोहब्बत से लोगों ने मिले हमसे, राजनाथ भाई हमको लिपट गए, रविशंकर प्रसाद जी लिपट गए, सब लोग प्यार किया, हमारा सम्मान किया, हमको गुलदस्ता दिया, सब बड़ी इज्जत दिया। तो हम बीजेपी के साथ भी हैं, हम किसी भी पार्टी से बंधे हुए नहीं हैं, हम सबके साथ हैं।
खान साहब के बेटे ने आज मुझे एक चीज बोली, मेरे दिमाग में बैठ गई है। उन्होंने कहा हमारा जो संगीत है वो बिकाऊ नहीं है।
संगीत बिकाऊ नहीं होता, संगीत तो खिदमत करने के लिए होता है। जो संगीत को बिकाऊ समझते हैं तो संगीत बेचने वाला संगीत में असर भी नहीं होता।
तो आप किसी भी पार्टी के साथ जुड़ेंगे
नहीं, हम पार्टी के साथ जुड़े नहीं हैं, सबके साथ मिल के रहते हैं, बस यही है मेरी।
Okay, I want to take this to Abhishek Singhvi and Chandan Mitra. Chandan Mitra, of course, what Khan Saab's son is saying here will make the BJP say, see, we told you so, and the Congress was trying to appropriate him. But didn't the BJP also do exactly that? You also approached this family to be one of the proposers for Mr. Modi. They declined because they don't want to take political sides. You then went to Pandit Chanulal Mishra. My question, Chandan, is a bit different. Should Varanasi's greatest icons, should history's big icons be just left alone instead of politicians squabbling over them and trying to claim and own them?
You know, the greatest icon of independent India is the idea of India. The India that we have built and that India which we are fully proud of. And I think the greatest disrespect some people do is to claim that the idea of India is their personal property or their intellectual property. The attempt to appropriate the idea of India by certain pseudo-intellectuals, I think, is the biggest crime being committed against the concept of India itself, and therefore the BJP is as much part of the idea of India, and it has ruled the country. It's going to rule the country in another 15 days from now, and you'll all see that how it is also part of the idea of India. And to attempt to say that the BJP stands away from the idea of India is really, I think, an insult to India. It's not an insult to BJP. To kind of run down the
Abhishek Singhvi, Chandan, you haven't answered my question, but I'm going to put the same question to Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, Bismillah Khan Saab's family played at the roadshow. It looked for a moment like an endorsement for the Congress. You just heard Khan Saab's son. My question is somewhat different. You remember Madan Mohan Malviya because Mr. Modi remembers him. But on that same day, Ajay Markan says these are Hindu icons. Mr. Modi is commemorating Hindu icons. Then there is this competition to appropriate some of our greatest cultural icons, Abhishek. Why are we doing this?
Very short and quick answers. First of all, this question you have to ask Mr. Modi, not us. Most of this attempted appropriation purely for cosmetic and superficial purposes has been done by Mr. Modi and the BJP. Let me say clearly, you have to be blind not to think that whatever development talk is done is purely as a facade and a front. If you take up from the beginning, day one of this campaign alone for the last 4 months, which Mr. Modi has been doing, or 5 months, the Amit Shah's statement sending him to UP, the taunts and the barbs of Mr. Modi, the symbolism, the imagery, the gestures, the backdrops, I think you have to be absolutely blind or completely superficial to think that this party or Mr. Modi is talking of development. It is clearly a divisive agenda, and it is true that more than any other election, they have subtly and overtly propagated it. As far as icons are
Campaigning is
concerned,
over now.
I don't think any political. Just a minute, let me finish. As far as icons are concerned,
Chandan have actually mirrored each other and just not answering the question and making a rehearsed political statement.
It is legitimate
Yes.
for political parties to try to appropriate icons which are national symbols, but to bring in religion into it or divisiveness into it, I would not agree if whether the Congress did it or the BJP did it. But 95% or 90% of it's been done by the BJP.
Okay, Yogendra Yadav.
The other way around.
Chandan, just give me a second. Where is the thin line between culture being interwoven into the daily lives of Indians and therefore seeping its way into politics, and culture transforming into a religious card? This is the complex debate. Let's take the Ganga. I think it's organic to the composite culture of this country. But there are others who think that when Mr. Modi said, "Maa Ganga ne mujhe bulaya hai," he was making a religious statement. Are we getting too politically correct? Can we actually leave culture outside the door when we enter politics?
That's impossible. Culture is always deeply political. Every politics will invoke culture, will try to appropriate cultural symbols which have certain value. Someone will invoke Bhagat Singh, someone will invoke Madan Mohan Malviya, and that invoking alone doesn't allow you to appropriate. What allows you to appropriate these symbols is certain credibility. Do you look like people who can invoke Bhagat Singh, or does it invite only smile and ridicule? That's a question which would always be debated. We started with Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya as well, our campaign, and today we ended at the feet of Dr. Ambedkar. Yes, these are two symbols. Yes, these two symbols we wish to invoke. Yes, you can say we wish to appropriate, and it's for the public to judge whether we are legitimate carriers of those symbols or not.
Amir, would you agree? Would you agree that in some ways you cannot separate culture and then maybe to some degree religion either from politics?
No, absolutely not. How can you separate? In India, in other countries, it may be possible. In India, whatever religion, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, religion is part of our daily life. How can you divorce religion and culture? The religion and the culture is part of everything. Everything you do from morning to evening is part of your cultural experience, is part of your religion. And we are a very religious people in this country. So how can you go out and vote?
So to that extent, is the conventional narrative of secularism, and this is another thing that makes this election.
No, I didn't finish. Sorry.
Okay, but can I just add a question?
Okay.
Since we've been talking about how this election has thrown up so many new questions, one of the things that keeps getting discussed now is the conventional narrative of secularism not working as a political tool of communication anymore.
I was just coming to that.
Yeah.
I was just coming to that. Therefore, even though it is part of our cultural synthesis, it's part of our daily routine, even still, I think in a democracy like this, in a country which is as varied as ours, it is of course against the constitution. It's against the election commission laws. It's against all our laws to invoke religion. Therefore, the responsibility of political parties and responsibility of at least leaders of political parties must be to ensure that there is no thin line. There is a huge thick line which we don't cross.
Okay, Chandan's got his hand up,
therefore saying "Maa Ganga ne mujhe bulaya," Mr. Modi should be very careful about using this symbolism.
Okay, Sadanand is disagreeing, but Chandan's got his hand up for a while. Ashutosh, give me a second. Chandan, go ahead, please.
No, I think you see the people of this country revere Ganga as the life giver, the source of India's civilization, its culture, its economy, everything. And I don't see any Hindu-Muslim stuff in respect for the Mother Ganga, which I think every writer, every poet, musician, reveres. And even if you ask the Bismillah Khan's family, I'm sure they will agree that Ganga is the life giver, mother, and therefore deserves all the respect that can be given to her. Now, what the problem is let me just complete. I'm coming to Nehru. I'm coming to Nehru. I'm precisely trying to tell these pseudo-congressmen and pseudo-secularists that they haven't even read Nehru. They don't bother to read Nehru. If they read Nehru, Nehru would have, they would have learned or understood that when people from Tamil Nadu travel to Kashi and go on pilgrimage that they've been doing for thousands of years, that is the silken bond that creates India. That is religion interwoven into culture, into a way of life. Now, if you divorce that, and if you divorce that,
Can I interrupt now?
I am not divorcing anything.
Because it is such an integral
You're
part.
saying it should be kept away
It should
from
be kept out of
politics.
politics.
But you know,
And
even
therefore-
Yogendra is
therefore,
making the
so what
point कि
is
बहुत
wrong
मुश्किल
in
है,
worshipping?
बहुत मुश्किल है. The
What is
iconography, the
no, tell me.
political iconography of this election. Ashutosh.
Politics needs cultural resources, politics needs symbols, icons will be used, cultural icons will be used.
Yeah.
Some of those cultural icons are likely to be divisive, some will not be divisive. It's a question of what the political philosophy of a particular party is. Nehru did say in his will and testament that he would like his ashes to be scattered in the Ganga after his death.
That's a
because he
personal-
saw, one second, you had your chance, let others speak.
Yeah, sure.
So and this desire that his ashes be scattered in the Ganga had no religious significance for him because he was not religious. He was deeply attached to the river Ganga as an Indian, he argued, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yogendra, you want to add a
Can I
line here
actually,
against Sadanand?
can I actually agree with Ashutosh? Actually, this might appear odd in this debate. Actually, I have no objection to Mr. Modi using the word Ganga in his campaign. It is whether it's a legitimate claim or not, it is for us to contest in public.
But
invoking Ganga doesn't make you communal.
It doesn't.
It should be contested.
Okay.
We have contested his claims of being a legitimate heir of this. But that's a political
Okay,
contestation.
I have to open it up for the audience, but Sadanand, the iconography of this election.
I think in a way it's a democratization of the iconography. I was quite struck by, for example, Rahul Gandhi going and garlanding Madan Mohan Malviya. I think what people are being forced, and they're really being forced by Mr. Modi's campaign, is to broaden this. This is not just a country of the Nehru-Gandhi family. We have got more icons. We've got icons that have been forgotten. It started with the statue for Sardar Patel. Now you've got Madan Mohan Malviya.
I think Abhishek's wanted to come in, and I'll allow him that
One
briefly.
point,
And then we have to try and get at least 5-6 questions.
Just one point in this context, that I wonder if Rahul Gandhi knew that in 1927, Madan Mohan Malviya presided over both the Hindu Mahasabha and the Congress. And the Hindu Mahasabha sessions used to be held adjacent to the All India Congress Committee annual session. That was the bonding between the Hindu Mahasabha and the Congress party. What are they talking about?
Chandan, I thought it was Abhishek speaking.
Very
Abhishek,
quickly,
go ahead.
I think all these nice, fine intellectual discussions cannot conceal the fact that basically people know. It's like an elephant you can't define, but they know when a person with a communal mindset is using imagery and iconism, or when a person is using it for other means. There is no doubt that in politics you can't have a sanitized Chinese wall whereby culture can be kept out or an icon can be kept out. Certainly nobody will suggest the use of Ma Ganga is going to be a communal thing. But the use of the word Ma Ganga in the imagery and the context of a person like Modi with a past and a future history can certainly suggest communal overtones.
आप लोग इस चुनाव को किस नजरिए से देखते हैं? आपके लिए सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा यहाँ पे काशी में क्या था?
I would like to refute first the idea of this icon being patented by individuals. This cannot be, admissible in the frame of the pluralistic basic structure of India as a nation.
How do you see the central issue in this election?
I think that's very well said.
I believe that Narendra Modi this time has proved to be the prime mover and has become an icon in himself, because he is the person who has made every party realize that people and the voters cannot be taken for granted. And every writer, every top leader has been forced by the circumstances to move to the...
So you're making an interesting point. You actually say that Mr. Modi has become part of the political iconography, that this has been that personality-centric an election. Let's get a perspective here. I remember meeting you once at Banaras Hindu University, and you said Varanasi today was reminding you of Peoply life. Why did you say that?
Well, I can still see that it's Peoply life, and it's
You're blaming us journos here.
at its asymptotic stage. But still, I would like to ask a question from Mr. You said that,
Mr. Dhume. Yeah.
Mr. Dhume,
Yeah.
you said that Narendra Modi was touching feet of the revered colonel. So you're saying that he's very, I mean, we should take that as he's embracing the idea of pluralistic culture, isn't that? Now, taking that same behavioral criterion, won't you think that that will be a little more inadvertent to conclude that Mr. Modi has not spent a full 24 hours in his own constituency?
You mean Varanasi?
In Varanasi.
Okay.
I don't understand.
I think that's mixing up issues
what's the connection?
in a sense. But I mean, he feels that if the behavior of respect was extended to the colonel, where is the respect to the constituency? Am I understanding your question?
I'm not a voter here, so I'm not going to judge whether people here. But my sense is that the people of Varanasi don't feel disrespected. My sense is that they understand that Mr. Modi had great national responsibilities in this campaign, and I think that they're looking forward to voting for him.
I think there are two separate claims here. One is that in his campaign, he has taken steps towards the center, basically,
Yes.
from right wing to right of center, right? That has included promises to Muslim community, for example, in the
Yes.
manifesto,
Yes.
which were very surprising ideologically. Now, the second point, which is the point Yogendra is making, and I would agree with him on that actually, is that one also has to see whether these concessions or this movement towards the center is credible. Right? Now, it seems as though the Muslim community of India does not think it's credible, and it seems as though the liberal community of India, liberal intellectuals, don't think that these moves are credible.
But let me reverse the question.
So these are two separate issues.
While
whether
I
the
take the
moves are
point, let me
credible.
reverse the question and take it to Yogendra. What Ashutosh Varshney is saying is very valid. But when you also see analysts in Varanasi saying the fight between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress boils down to who gets what share of the 15% Muslim vote, is that also development centric? Aren't the secular, I'm using it in quotes because it's become a political construct, aren't the secular parties also calculating on the basis of religion?
Secularism is the most sacred principle of our constitution, and it is the biggest hoax in politics of our country, both simultaneously. The question that should be posed to these so-called secular parties, whether this is what they were trying to do. If the question to Aam Aadmi Party is Aam Aadmi Party is trying to target a certain kinds of votes.
Yes, that is the question.
Show me the moves. Show me anything in our manifesto. Show me something in our political behavior. Show me in what we are doing. That a party gets uneven vote share from different social sections is something which a
No, I
party
think the
doesn't
point
change and
the point I
decide.
think I'm making is that the realpolitik dictates that the Muslim vote will be wooed in Kashi by the Congress, the Samajwadi Party, and of course, whom am I leaving? The Aam Aadmi Party. Amir, you want to
But
comment
if
on
I may
that?
point out,
Yeah.
that's certainly not going to decide this election. Muslim votes happen to be less than 20%.
Fair
So
enough.
someone who doesn't get the rest is nowhere.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I want to bring out this point here that first time there is an election. I hate parties who come to the Muslims and say this, that, reservation, blah, blah. It's corruption.
Yeah.
But here there is, for the first time, there is a party, as he says, has made no moves towards the Muslim community. And, you know, I was shocked yesterday. I was not shocked. I was very pleasantly surprised. You know, there's been this huge debate about Vande Mataram, and BJP, I personally say Vande Mataram very loudly. I've said it in my place, and I think, you know, we should say it. But BJP has this slogan, Bharat mein agar rehna hai to Vande Mataram kehna hai, and the Muslims get all. Yesterday, I found in large circles of Muslims.
This is not true.
I think Chandan is not accepting that that's their slogan. Chandan is not accepting
All right,
that's their
Chandan, I'll give you that. Anyway.
No, but when did you hear this slogan?
No. Okay, now listen. Are yaar, Chandan, ruko Chandan. Okay, now listen. I want to tell you what happened yesterday. Let me tell you.
Separate question.
Yeah,
You can't
I'll just answer that
without saying where you heard
I'll
it.
just come to that.
Quickly,
you know.
Amir, I've got to hear from people here.
I've been in the BJP 20 years before.
Till you
Come
left
on.
it. Okay.
Yeah, till I left it. Okay, now, so what I'm saying to you, yesterday I was shocked. Groups of Muslims raising slogans of Vande Mataram.
Yeah.
Raising slogans of Vande Mataram. And I was saying, wow, this Kejriwal, without offering these jokers a penny, has got all these guys.
Okay, let's park that thought. Let's hear from people here. आप लोग कैसे इस चुनाव?
The one point, this is the general expression that I want to post is,
this election is not of emotions, not of culture, not of religions. This election is just of hope. Hope for development, hope for the future in upbringing, hope for a brighter future. That's it.
Very true.
Okay, do you want to answer that?
Absolutely correct.
We are not talking about local issues here.
Absolutely correct.
There are three local issues in Varanasi or problems, I would say, that should be addressed.
Acha Chandan, 1 minute.
That should be addressed urgently. That is, one is urban development in Varanasi, one is river, definitely Ganga, another is textile industry. One man is Narendra Modi, who has shown it in his state that he has done all these things on the ground and has proved that he can do it. He has a vision to do that. And nobody has everybody is promising till 60 years that he'll do that, but nobody has done it.
Okay, let's get a perspective here at the back as well. What do you think?
Actually, Burqa, this is the fight for silver and bronze, and AAP and Congress is running for that, and Modi is a clear winner and he's a gold medalist.
Okay, obviously a lot of support here for Mr. Modi, but there are perhaps other perspectives. Anyone else who has a different perspective here? Let's get a different perspective.
This election is known for cunning political communication. The communication where nothing has been clearly mentioned that how the development will work. India is a very diverse country, and like Varanasi, you have seen the road recently constructed very well by one of the instruction of the DM, Pranjal Yadav. That's why he become very popular among the people. And if you say silver and bronze, it's not an Olympic game. It's basically political democracy and alternative politics like AAP and I don't know about the other political parties. They have brought in Varanasi. That's a great thing. I was born, brought up and educated in BHU. I found that it was basically a communal lab. And this is a culmination point that a person coming from Gujarat has opted Varanasi. And today we come to know that he will stay here, and the fact of 32 seats, this was his agenda.
You're clearly not a Modi.
No, not at all.
Okay, okay. All right. Just a couple of last comments. Yeah.
I think the whole issue of outsider and insider doesn't work for Varanasi.
Okay.
The city was developed by people who came from all over the country.
Yeah.
Ahilya Bai, Baisa Bai, they were not from Banaras. So outside, inside doesn't matter. If someone feels for Banaras, they can do something for us. It doesn't matter whether it's whichever party. Everyone's neglected the city.
I think that's such an important point. You know, today I heard Bismillah Khan's grandson in the day telling me, please, can someone bring a Sangeet Natak Academy to the city? Now, these are the issues that we just don't hear enough about in the rabble rousing.
My question to BJP, today's Rajnath Singh has passed a statement that Mr. Narendra Modi will keep the Varanasi seat. So my question is that why, if there is a Modi why they have to pass this statement now, whenever they can pass this before the Baroda's election?
Okay, Chandan, 30 seconds because I've got to end. Is it now certain that Mr. Modi, if he wins, will keep the Banaras seat if he wins?
Look, I have also read Mr. Rajnath Singh's comment. It was not made in Delhi, and therefore I don't know anything beyond this. But then, I think Banaras is the heart and soul of this country. Anybody who's elected MP from Varanasi, I think would, it's almost like kind of having got merged in the soul of India. I would hope that Mr. Modi does not leave Varanasi because it's a spiritual connect. It is a way to establish spiritual connect with the soul of India.
Okay, Abhishek Singhvi, your 30 seconds.
Well, all I can say is that the main thought of everybody is that thank God it's all over as far as the campaigning is concerned. And the Congress, I think, is proud and happy that by and large, has almost without exception fought a confident, straightforward and not a below the belt campaign in any way. And I think may the best man win and the best results come. I think that's the only overall thought.
Okay, may the best man win, may the best woman win as well. 30 seconds to all of you. Sadhana, let me start with you. How is it that an election that's meant to be about development and development only has also been amongst the ugliest campaigns that I have seen in a long time?
I mean, I think there's definitely the fact that Mr. Modi is a polarizing figure. People either love him deeply or they loathe him.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he has been the central personality of this campaign has in and of itself injected a great deal of controversy.
Amir, your 30 seconds.
What I don't understand is why he is fighting 2 seats. If he is so confident, if he is so into the culture of Banaras, Why is he fighting Baroda?
Okay, that question will remain.
It's a question for all of the people who are going to vote tomorrow.
Please.
Why is he fighting 2 seats?
एक मिनट. चलिए, I have to end now. Sonia,
this election would be remembered for the biggest PR con that India has seen in the history of independence.
Conceding defeat.
The amount of public relations exercise, spin doctoring, money, intimidation, media capture that happened for the first time.
Okay.
This unfortunately can change Indian electoral politics forever in a very bad way.
Ashu, that's a grim thought.
To me, this election has been about business exuberance and secular angst. That's the best way to summarize. It has a good side, has a bad side. And you can add to business exuberance, middle class exuberance to a limited extent.
Okay.
But great secular angst.
All right, that secular angst will be explored further. I'm out of time. On this program tonight, अब मैं request करती हूँ that we must end. We began with music, we must end. We have the privilege of having Ustad Bismillah Khan's family here playing for us. And so we request them कि आखिरी जो यहाँ से जो एक sound निकलता है बनारस का, वो आप ही का हो. प्लीज.
तो आखिर में रघुपति राघो राजा राम हमारे अब्बा हुजूर बजाते थे
जी.
ये राम धुन है
जी.
रघुपति राघो राजा राम पतित पावन सीता. मतलब